Dear Lord, we just come to you just thankful and grateful, Lord. I thank you for Bethany willing to come on and share her story, Lord, and just show what you've done in her life, Lord, and just calm her nerves and be with her. She tells this story of redemption and love and what you've brought them through, God. And I just ask that you take our words out of it and place your words in it, God, and let it speak to whoever needs to hear it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, guys. So I've got Bethany here on the podcast with us. She and I worked together a couple years ago, and her and her husband's story is amazing. I've heard bits and pieces of it, so I'm excited to hear all of what she's got to tell us. So I'm going to let her kind of introduce herself and then kind of tell us what God's brought her through.
So my name is Bethany, and my husband's name is Brian. We have been together for, we were going through this in the truck, and I'm like, how long have we been together? I'm not really sure. We've been married for almost 3. We've known each other for almost 18. Been together for about 9. So we've been together for a really long time. My husband is a recovering alcoholic. I didn't really know that he had a problem. Well, let me back up. I think I knew that he had a problem. I was just very blind to it. It was very new into our relationship whenever we're driving down the road and he reaches in the back seat to take a drink of bourbon. And so then I was like, okay, well, I know this is a problem, but I already had a connection with this person, and so that's just kind of where things started.
Right.
And things kind of slowly progressed into, kind of deeper and darker. He was kind of traveling for work. His dad had an electrician business that was kind of dissolving, and so he was going to be out of work soon.
Yeah.
And so I think, along with some other traumas that he had been through in his life, that was kind of the breaking point in all of this that I personally witnessed.
Right.
So it was really tough, to watch him downward spiral. I do have 2 kids from a previous marriage, and so trying to keep them from seeing the things that we went through was really difficult. I'm really thankful that they were too young at the time to know that anything had gone on. So I was really thankful for that.
Yeah.
He, started hiding vodka in water bottles, and I would find those literally all over the house. And I think at one time I had popped my trunk to see if there was a spare tire in there, because I think my tire was going bad or something, and there was an entire bottle of vodka in there. So at this point we had gone from bourbon and now we're to vodka. I think that was just anything that he can find.
Do you think that the transformation from bourbon to vodka was easier to hide?
Probably. It was. Because, whenever you see a water bottle and it's clear, you just assume it's water. Right? So, and at like the transition from me ending a marriage and then, starting a relationship, we lived with my dad for a little bit. So, watching him also try to detox on his own was something that I would not wish on my worst enemy.
No, it's a really hard thing to do. It's a very dangerous thing to do as well.
Absolutely.
A lot of people, especially with alcohol, seizures, all kinds of things that can happen in detoxing off that cold turkey. So
yeah. And again, he was doing all the things. He was, the cranberry juice, the milk thistle, all of the things that you hear of, people trying to do to help them detox. And then, of course, he was living not here like all the time because I had my kids. And so, of course, he couldn't be around the kids for a little bit with, of course, the divorce decree from my previous marriage. Yeah. So that in itself was a blessing.
Yeah.
Making, sure that the kids weren't around during those times.
Do you think when you look at that like maybe that was God's way of kind of like holding the boys off from seeing something that they would have inevitably seen had that not been a thing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I very much think that was God intervening at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. And going back, like, he was kind of moving from being here with me to, he had a place at his grandparents'. It was we called it the Bus, but it was an old motorhome that he stayed in. And so that was on his grandparents' property. And so he would stay in the Bus during the time that he wasn't with me. And of course, he's drinking the whole time.
Right.
Of course, I don't know that until I, travel up there to see him, and I see like all of these clothes laid out on this couch that's in the Bus. And I'm like, why are all of your clothes just laid out everywhere? And I was like, there's a suitcase. But again, he's living out of a suitcase at this point.
Right.
He had gone to the bathroom, and I flipped this suitcase open, and I had never seen so many empty alcohol bottles.
Right.
At one time. I had never seen that before. And I think at that point I was like, we have a whole problem.
Yeah.
This is a problem. Again, I can't tell you a timeline as to how long we were together before I came upon those, but again, you're invested in this relationship, and you love somebody, and you're trying to make things work with a relationship, but also try to be an advocate for somebody who at that point didn't want help.
Right.
When he was detoxing on his own, he did end up having a wreck. He did.
Excuse me.
No, it's okay. He crashed into the side of a house.
Oh, goodness.
Because he had a seizure.
Oh,
he had a seizure while driving. So that in itself was super eye-opening to me, that I was like, okay, he can't do this on his own.
Right.
And of course, I had done everything at that point that I possibly could to try and be like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like, why can't you stop?
Right.
And coming from somebody who doesn't have an addictive personality, it's hard to watch, because, saying, well, you love me, why can't you stop?
Right.
And it's not about that.
No,
like,
because
they have to be ready on their own.
Right. And not only that, like, it's so much bigger. I was having this conversation with Emma the other day. Like, I struggled for a really long time as a kid, like, why my dad couldn't get sober for me. Like, if you love me so much, it should be easy.
Yeah.
But it's not. And it took me having kids and watching that addiction spiral and seeing the way different things affect the decision. It's not as cut and dry as I love you enough to quit.
Oh, yeah.
It's not always that simple. Once your body has decided that you need that, whatever that addiction is, your whole chemistry in your brain changes.
Yeah.
And so it's not as simple as, oh, you love me enough, you'll quit.
Yeah. And I think, once he had his wreck, he was transferred to a hospital, maybe Owensboro, I think. So his grandparents live in it's called Livermore, which is like 30 minutes outside of Owensboro. So he was at the hospital, he tore his rotator cuff. He had several like bumps and bruises, but I mean, seriously lucky to be alive,
right,
considering
absolutely.
He ran into the side of a house. But after he was discharged and I picked him up from the hospital, the first place that we went was the liquor store, because he said, I've got to do this my way, and this is what we're going to do. You're going to drive me to the liquor store, and I'm going to try and taper off. Because, of course, he had been off of alcohol for several days now. So not only is he in the hospital from all of these injuries, he's also detoxing. And so, of course, being the person that I am, I love this man, and I'm trying to, love him through this. And I said, okay, tell me what we need to do. So, again, we go to the liquor store. He gets more alcohol. He's like drinking a little bit at a time, but again, I'm still like seeing kind of bits and pieces of like we're hiding things.
Right.
And again, I'm certain that alcoholics and addicts are very good at manipulating things. They are very good liars.
Yep.
They will tell you what you want to hear in the moment. Again, I know it's not something that he just chose, because you hear that a lot. Like, well, you chose this. You chose this alcohol. You chose this addiction. You chose this drug. No, like, it does not discriminate.
Right. Doesn't matter who you are.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And so, that was hard in itself, knowing that he just got out of the hospital, and here we are just, trying to then go get more alcohol. Yeah. So, then kind of after that, he stopped for a little bit, I think for a few weeks, I guess. And then he ended up getting a job at Nissan. And by getting that job, he met this guy. And I could never speak so highly of a person again in my life. He was a true vessel for Christ. He is who introduced us to our church. He is who showed up for us when I felt like I had nobody else, or Brian and I had nobody else. Yeah. And he was doing the Lord's work. He was, and he was just always there for us. Anytime I would call and say Brian's, relapsed, he'd say, okay, let me make some phone calls. Let's see what I can do. And so working with John, which is our friend, he actually made some phone calls, and that's when Brian got admitted to a rehab facility for the first time. It was kind of eye-opening for me, because I'm like, how do we navigate this? Like, you're going to be in this facility, and what do I do? Like, what do I do in the meantime? Mm-hmm. So of course I've always been a Christian. I'm very spiritual. I do a lot of praying. So again, during that time, I did a lot of crying. Whenever I didn't have the words, my tears were my prayers. Yeah. And again, long story short, he was in and out of rehab. He went to one facility, I think 3 times, and then to a 4th facility, before he finally was like, okay, if I don't get my life together, I'm going to die. Like, this is going to kill me. It's going to take my life. Right. And, I thank God for bringing us through it all. Mm-hmm. We couldn't have navigated it without God. There's no question in my mind. Right. Previous to all of this, my husband was agnostic, so he knew there was a higher power, but didn't really feel like a godly connection. Yeah. And with the help of John and him going to rehabs, it was it transformed our lives for sure.
And I think sometimes I think God gets us to where we don't have anybody else to call out for. Mm-hmm. I think there are times for isolation for a purpose. Yeah. I know that in that moment we don't feel like it's a purpose. We don't feel like it's a good thing. But I think sometimes he has to get us to the absolute bottom to beg for him to realize how important he really is. Yeah. But it doesn't always mean that season's the easiest. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to lay on the floor and have cold on you and just cry uncontrollably because there's nothing else you can do. Yeah. I've done that a lot this week where I'm just crying and I'm like, God, there's no words. I can't say anything else. But I'm beat down and I'm tore up, and the only one that can fix it is you. Yeah. And so crying out and letting him take that, because we're not meant to carry that alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I will never stop, talking to my husband about John. I mean, he was ultimately who helped us navigate towards our church and towards salvation for Brian, because he was just like I said, he was a walking vessel, and, it didn't matter, if he relapsed or whenever he got out of rehab, it didn't matter. He was like, okay, this is what we need to do next. Let me reach out and figure out something, God puts people in your life for a reason. He places them in your path for transformation. Right.
And God says 70 times 70. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we forget that. We think that, oh, I forgave you, and you continue to do the same thing that, hurts me or doesn't agree, that we're just supposed to be like, okay, that's it, and walk away.
Yeah.
It's not what God calls us to. Now, I'm not saying that we continue to put up with abuse and things of that nature, but there is some grace that God calls us to in order to show up for people, even when they're not doing what they should be.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we have to work through some of that, because you're not just doing that for you. You're giving that grace to someone that might not know that it exists in any other form. Because life has just not shown them that. Because somebody has always been mean or had a motive or whatever. So being that vessel, showing up like Christ, even when it's hard, is that much more important, especially to people that might not have ever seen that.
Yeah, for sure. I can't even, like, I could not thank him enough. Like, I thank God whenever I pray. I'm like, thank you, God, for sending us John, because he just was such a great person. And again, we've kind of lost touch. Like, his job and everything has kind of taken him to a different place. But again, like, there's seasons, you know, and we've kind of lost touch through the years. But again, like I said, that was all for the glorification of God.
Absolutely.
I can remember the very first time that Brian and I walked into church together, and I immediately started crying because I felt God's presence so much. And I said, this is our home. This is home. It feels like home to us. And again, I've been in church my whole life.
Right.
But again, going back to, Brian was agnostic before he got sober. And so John kind of showed us the way, basically. And then God took over. But walking into church and singing worship and feeling like that song that they're singing up there is meant for me. Like, God is working through their voices to touch what I'm dealing with. I have never been in a place inside of a building in church where I felt like I wasn't being judged. It was a place where I could cry and nobody would be like, oh, why is she crying? What's going on? Or, I don't know. It was just, it was a really, it was good for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we forget how important it is to be in a place where the Holy Spirit can speak to you. You know what I mean? Like, to be able to let it all go, be open to what God's got. And I think sometimes people that aren't attending church, not saying that's the only time we hear God or we feel God.
Sure.
But I think when we're not attending church, you're not allowing God to use that place of reverence. You know what I mean? To speak. I walked into church today, and like I said, it's been the hardest week of my life, and we're not done yet.
Yeah.
Tuesday's going to be harder. And they start singing I Trust in God, because what's coming I don't have any control over. Somebody else is about to tell me what my life's going to look like from here on out.
Yeah.
And I'm just bawling, because I'm like, God, no matter what you choose this path to be, I know that you're gonna use it, and I'm gonna trust you to do that. But my heart is broken, and that I don't get to pick.
Yeah.
And so I can't get a word out, and then all of a sudden the whole entire congregation has got me up at the front with their hands and just praying, like, Lord, just give her peace, just give her comfort, because there's nothing else that we can do right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we discredit ourselves because we've been hurt by going to church, because somebody judged us, because somebody hurt us. I'm not saying those things aren't valid.
Yeah.
And that you might not need to relook at that, but I think sometimes we take a hurt too much to heart, and we're separating ourselves from that time with God.
Yeah, for sure. I think too, whenever you've been hurt or just been in church and haven't felt that connection, you tend to focus on that. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people from coming back. Whenever you feel like you're judged or you've been hurt in church, it makes it hard whenever you feel like you can't connect with people, and whenever you can't connect to that atmosphere, for sure. And I will tell you, like, I brought a lot of this stuff today, but I specifically wanted to touch base and talk about Brian's mom. So Brian's mom was very sick whenever he was growing up. She ended up passing away in his 20s from liver cancer, not due to alcohol, but for other reasons. But something that was very important to him that he wanted to pass along was this necklace that she had given to him. She wore this necklace all the time. It was a locket that had a piece of his baby hair in it. And, my husband now is 45, so he gave this to me, 5-6 years ago. Well, it's been longer than that, but whenever he was in rehab and we would be writing letters back and forth to each other, there was one specific letter that I wrote to him, and I laid her necklace on this paper. And so I wasn't really looking at it at the time, but I was just like tracing this necklace because I wanted him to know that, even though you're going through this hard time, your mom can see you in heaven, and she knows,
Right.
Right. But I just want to show this to you because it was kind of crazy. So I had laid this necklace on this piece of paper, and as I'm tracing it at the very top, it's an angel. It is an angel. And, God, again, works in ways that sometimes we can't understand.
Yeah.
But he shows up right on time.
Yeah.
So look at that. I mean, that's just the...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is exactly what that is, for sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And there's not an angel on the locket, like on the...
There's not. No, there's
Wow.
not. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I love that, though.
Yeah. So, again, just, I think knowing that he is sober now, of course, my mind goes back to those times sometimes, especially if you've ever been or experienced trauma, you kind of you'll have flashbacks,
Yeah.
obviously. And of course, my kids and him they're water drinkers. And if we have, water bottles all over the house, I'm like, okay,
Right.
I know those have water in them, but
Right.
it's like, it's an odd feeling knowing, but I mean, we have come leaps and bounds from where we were, and there is no other way to express how we got to this point, and that God that's it.
So how long does he have sober?
This year is 6 years.
Way to go, Brian. That's great.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a lot. Is he... So for him, is he practicing, like going to meetings? Is that something he's still...
So, of course, he is so busy. So he's a general manager at a restaurant, and so he is really busy. For a long, long time, he did go to AA meetings and had a sponsor and worked with his sponsor. Again, that is something to see as well, sitting in AA meetings.
I tell them, I've said multiple times on this podcast, that if you want to see the Lord, go sit in the basement of a church.
Oh, wow.
At an AA meeting or a Celebrate Recovery or a NA meeting, whatever it is. But if you want to see God, I'm telling you.
Yeah. That is something that I needed to see that. I needed to. So where he was going, of course, they had obviously there's closed meetings where it's just the members of AA, and then there's open meetings where spouses or children or whatever can also attend. And so sitting in those meetings was so eye-opening, because it's like God doesn't discriminate at all.
No.
I mean,
And you're not alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your story might not be exactly the same, but people feel or have been where you are. And that's amazing in itself, in a time that you feel like nobody gets what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Especially when you're secret. Especially when you're hiding it. Especially when it's not come out. We're functioning addicts or whatever, you know what I mean? And so, you're living this double life. We're cool till 6 p.m. and then from 6 to, 10 o'clock when they pass out is absolute crazy time. You know what I mean? So, but to have somebody say at 11:30 every night, I know he's probably going to pass out and I don't have to deal with it. And a part of me feels better about that. You know what I mean? Those are big things. And I think that those are used for God uses people in those meetings. You know what I mean? To reach out and love you when it's hard and love you when you don't think that anybody else can.
Absolutely. You know, since Brian's been sober, he, of course, was a bartender for a really long time. So, you know, when you're around alcohol all the time, of course, you know, he would get off shift and he would drink and whatever. But he has actually had a few friends that have gone through, are currently going through, you know, alcoholic struggles. And, you know, I think from his point of view, it's really great to see because it is like a full circle moment, knowing where we came from and how we navigated to get where we are now. And then to see him be an advocate and to show his friends love that are going through alcoholism too it's amazing. It really is.
I tell people all the time that if you're not, that you can be sober, okay, and not live recovery. So you can be sober and not have any substances but you're not living recovery. When you're living recovery, if you're not giving back, you're going to lose what you're working through because you get through all that. You like, and there is the Lord in the 12 steps. I don't care what anybody says. And I know that different ones teach different ways, and that's fine. But those 12 steps deal with some of that underlying trauma stuff that you don't even know is there until you work it.
Oh, yeah.
And to walk somebody else through that when you know how much he did for you, there's something about that you can't replace the joy that brings.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so much stuff in it that you're not prepared for. You think, oh, I just chose to drink because my daddy chose to drink. No.
Right.
I mean, yeah, maybe. But you chose to drink because of this trauma, that trauma, and I don't have self-awareness and I don't know how to take a moral inventory of myself.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's a constant thing. You don't wake up one day and say, oh, now I'm sober, so I don't have to work that anymore. That's how you get yourself in trouble.
Absolutely. And I think too, you know, whenever he was in and out of rehab that many times, I think he was at what's the one in Mayfield? Is that Recovery Works? I think. I don't know. Am I not supposed to talk about? Okay. So like he went to Recovery Works 3 different times and then ended up going to Lifeline. And I think, you know, whenever he was, and again, and not speaking badly about Recovery Works at all, but that's not a long enough system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 30 days and then you're you have to go somewhere else or figure something out. Right.
I think that's a big problem, especially in Paducah. I'm not saying that it's not a world, you know, a national problem. I don't know. But in our area, I think we have great programs for that 30 days or whatever. And even we've got some 6-monthers.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, it takes an addict like a year and a half for their brain to be back to baseline. So we're giving them 30 days of sobriety and they've worked the 30 days of a program. And, yeah, they've got it and they've got the fire. But the longevity of that is not there to back them up in that recovery.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, the couple of times that he did get out, it was like, okay, well, I'm good. I'm going to go to an AA meeting here and okay.
I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, God can call you to something. And you and I have talked about this, you know, the past couple of days, but God can call you to something and say, this is what I need you to do. I need you to be obedient and I need you to do this. But you also have to put in the work. You have to move your feet in order for those things to align, right? Again, I think with alcoholics, with addicts, you know, you have to be ready. You have to physically be so tired of that.
Being sick and tired.
Exactly. And, you know, again, sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom a few times in order for you to actually see, okay, this is a problem. I'm recognizing this is a problem, and this is how I'm going to navigate it.
And, you know, Randy, my stepdad's always said, rock bottom has a basement.
Oh, yes.
So, like, you can absolutely think that you've hit your rock bottom.
Yeah.
But there's another level to fall until you're dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Until you're in the ground, there's a whole nother level that can just keep going. You know what I mean? So, like, sometimes we have to take and go, okay, this is the most rock bottom I want to be at. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to see what's after that.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I think too, and I can speak for probably spouses and girlfriends and boyfriends of people that are navigating this now, is sometimes you can be an enabler. You're thinking you're actually doing something that's good, but you're actually working against them.
Yeah.
I can remember specifically, Brian had a house that he was trying to sell at the time. He was in a very, very bad place. He had lost weight, which is not really typical for alcoholics. Normally you put on weight. Yeah. But he had lost weight. He wasn't eating. He was just drinking alcohol. And he was living in his home with no air conditioning. It's in the middle of summer. And he's just laid out on this couch, profusely sweating. Yeah. I'm like, he is going to die in this house, and I'm going to find him. Right. That was my biggest fear. Yeah. My biggest fear was losing him, and that was all that was on my mind. Yeah. I know that's harsh to think that my mind was so consumed with making sure that he was going to live, that here I go and I'm buying water and I'm buying peanut butter, and of course he's probably taking waters and standing out front with a sign saying waters for 50. He's going to find some money to go and buy alcohol. So again, it's normal to kind of, I don't want to say normal because that's a word that I really try to shy away from, but being an enabler is, I think,
some of the process.
It is. And I don't want to say that I would do anything different, because I know I wouldn't. Right. Because the very process that we went through is what got us to sobriety. Right. And got us to a wonderful relationship with God. So I would not change a single thing. But just some encouragement for people that are currently struggling with this. You are not alone. No. I see you. I feel for you. It is hard. It is so, so hard. You can give your entire heart. You can give everything in yourself. But unless your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend is ready to commit to sobriety, it's not going to happen. You can't love somebody out of alcoholism or out of addiction. I've tried it, and it didn't work. I just think that the culmination of all of those things, plus God intervening and putting so many people in our lives that got us to following Christ and just listening to what he was telling us to do to get us to a place of sobriety, is what it took.
And let me just say, for those that have a spouse, a sibling, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whatever, a child, let me just tell you that there are resources out there. There are meetings for you. You're not above a 12-step program yourself. It will be real eye-opening for you. We will post our contact information at the bottom of this, and we'll be glad to point you in the right direction for some of those resources. If you are someone struggling with addiction, you're done. You've met your rock bottom. Again, reach out. We'll be glad to point you in the right directions. We are not a health facility or anything, but I do have resources. I do have contacts, and we will be glad to give those to you so that we can help you get to where you want to be. I think it's important that we remember that addiction is awful and hard for all involved. Nobody in a family unit is untouched when there's someone in the family that struggles with addiction. And I think that it's okay for you to say, I'm struggling because my ABC, whatever that person is to you. And there is a way to have some peace. You might not be able to fix them. You're not going to fix them. It's not our job. Yeah. But there is a way to find peace in that.
And I am certainly available for anybody who wants to talk, that is going through this. themselves currently, I would be more than happy to sit down and talk to anybody if they're struggling and they just need an unbiased opinion about what's going on in their lives.
Yeah.
I'm an open book, and I would love to do that if I'm able to.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
So just reach out. We'll be glad to get y'all that. And I think it's important that we talk about what your relationship now looks like. What do y'all do to kind of, though it's the past, it's something we have to keep in the forefront of our mind because it's an everyday struggle.
Sure.
What do y'all do to kind of keep that relationship in the right direction?
Yeah. So we are very busy. So I'm currently in nursing school. My kids are obviously older and in school, and Brian is running a business. So it's really kind of hard. Honestly, it is. But, at the end of the day, just knowing that we have come so far and we don't want to look backwards.
Yeah.
I have heard him time and time again, and even in a lot of these letters say, God is giving me today.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to focus on today. And that's pretty much what we try to do, is just navigate today. Don't think about an hour from now. Don't think about tomorrow or next week. Like, again, if you're struggling today, just think about being sober for today.
I've said many a times that I can't even, there was times I couldn't live in today. Had to live in the next second, the next minute, because I just couldn't even deal with what a whole day looked like.
Absolutely.
So, I tell people all the time, if it takes you to live for the next second or the next minute or whatever, one step in front of the other, one day at a time, one moment at a time, whatever you need to do to get through that.
Yes, absolutely. And it is a struggle. And again, I think Brian doesn't like to talk about the past a lot of times because, again, it's traumatic. And again, he will tell you himself, he's burned a lot of bridges along the way.
Yeah.
But he said, I would burn those bridges again to get me to where I am. And I know that kind of sounds silly, but he is a completely different person. And I would not change anything that we did, a single bit of it. Looking back, I think, gosh, I did not heal from that.
Right.
And I will tell you that sitting here and talking to you about something that I have never spoken about is healing for me. Again, I've talked to my therapist about it,
right?
But that's it. That's it. My family doesn't know. A lot of my friends, didn't really know our whole story. So I'm certainly glad that I was able to sit down with you today.
Well, I appreciate it. I think it's important that we show people that our hurts, because you never know where someone else sits and what they're struggling with by themselves, because they don't think anybody else gets it. And so I think it's important. I think it's important to show that God's redeeming love doesn't stop in the Bible. That God lives in it today.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's important to remember, even when it's hard, even when, you're in the middle of it and you're like, we're never going to get out of this. I'm going to bury him, and this is what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And we live in that world, and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and that's not where you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And be, oh, God did that because I didn't. Brian didn't. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't do that by myself.
Yeah.
I think it's important. So I appreciate you being open and honest and sharing some of that stuff that was hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I am so excited and glad that I was able to do this with you.
All right, well,
yeah.
I appreciate you coming, and we'll have you back again. I'm sure we will.
Yes.